everyone. Welcome to Goodbye Guesswork, a Postscript webinar. I'm Laura Serino. I run the content and community here at Postscript. And today we have an incredible panel of true SMS pros and two brands that I'm personally so excited I get to chat with today. And today's topic is testing and optimization. So this topic actually came up based on lots of conversations we've had during previous webinars in the chat, where we were noticing a lot of merchants were asking questions about how to test for things. Well, how do you know when to measure this? How are you looking at performance of this campaign? And these were really great questions. So we wanted to bring in the pros. These two brands in particular do an incredible job at running tests and optimizing their entire SMS strategy. So before we get started, I want to introduce you to our panelists. We have Danae Young, who is the Associate Director of Retention for Ruggable, the original washable rug. And we also have TJ Ferreira, founder and CEO of BUBS Naturals, high quality collagen and MCT oil powder. And please let us know in the chat if you are current customers of these brands. Drop them some love, please. So welcome, TJ and Danae. And to get us started, let's throw up two poll questions for attendees. So first poll question. Okay, what part of your strategy do you need help optimizing the most? Please vote. Let us know. We want to know where everyone's at. No one's voting. Wow. Maybe everyone's having trouble voting. Open, maybe hit open. Go to polls tab. There you go. Go to polls tab. And you should all be able to vote. Okay, now we've got some coming in. Let's see where we're all at. Acquisition. Okay, this is always a big one. Merger, retention, all of the above. Conversion, engagement. These are all topics we're going to cover. Acquisition is a big one. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Acquisition remains a big one. We actually have a couple of resources we'll pop into chat too with acquisition. We've got a pop-up audit that's really helpful for this, but we'll move on to our next poll question. Back to polls tab. How frequently do you run tests? So randomly, is it quarterly? Are you doing it every week? You doing it not at all? Randomly. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. Randomly does seem to be not enough. Okay, not enough. Well, you've come to the right place then. If it's not enough, you're going to be inspired. TJ and Danae are going to burn a fire under you to get it going. Okay, so welcome to you both. I'm so excited you're here. And let's get started with, let's sum up your overall approach to testing and optimization. Danae, I'll start with you. I'm just kind of curious, what does that look like for Ruggable if you were to sum up how you approach testing and optimization in general on the channel?
Yeah. I feel like SMS is still a new channel for us, even though we've had it for quite some time, a couple years now, but I think there's so much to unlock there. So we really use SMS, like we use testing to get really quick learnings about what it is that resonates with the audience that we have on SMS, what engages that channel for us. We like to figure out what types of users we should be targeting, what kind of content they're interested in, when they like to be targeted, whether that's time of day or day of week. We test to learn quicker and then be able to optimize the channel for the future.
Yeah, and it makes so much sense because it's inherently such an easy channel to get those quick, data points from and getting that immediate feedback. TJ, same question for you.
Yeah, we're always testing different things. There's not a strict schedule internally. I would say it's more on the random side, but less on the not enough side. We're definitely random across the board, but there's always 5 or 6 tests running, depending on what we're doing. And we just kind of, in all honesty, internally, it's just if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And that old adage has rung true for 26 plus years that I've been in this industry. And it's pick a couple KPIs and optimize to those. And I think Danae's comments were great, and the size of the list that she has a little bit different than ours, and the size of the segment's a little bit different than ours. But kind of scaling into that and understanding how we're breaking apart and talking to different people, both demographic and psychographic, and what are the trigger words that we're saying to those individuals and how are they converting. We can send out 3 different messages about health or wellness or, or improving something in your life. And all 3 of those are going to resonate different, but they all mean the same thing underneath. So we're always throwing in little trigger words and seeing what we can get out of it. But again, it is, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And that's what we live by.
I love that. Also, I'm getting really excited. You guys are about to drop some knowledge. I could just feel it. My spidey senses are tingling. Okay, so I think like a very important thing to think about with testing and optimization is obviously segments. Segmentation came up in a lot of our conversations when we were talking about the webinar. And I want to start with you, Danae, because when we were in the Ruggable account, we saw over 300 segments. And now these were not all active, obviously, but it just really speaks to how powerful or how seriously you take segmentation. So I'm really curious, kind of how many active segments are you using, I guess, with Ruggable currently, do you think? And in general, what is your approach to that? Like, how are you determining when to create a segment and when to maybe even not use a segment anymore? I would love to hear how Ruggable approaches this.
Yeah, we have a lot of them. I'd say actively, we're probably regularly targeting anywhere from like 15 to 20 of those 300-ish that you mentioned, which is still, I know, a lot. We really like to get very specific with how we target people and then make sure the messaging is very specific too. And so that's kind of where that comes from. So an example of that would be we have a loyalty program. And so we don't just target, a loyalty member or you're not a loyalty member. No, we split our loyalty group into different segments. We look at different factors, if they like just recently signed up versus like, have they been with us a longer amount of time or did they purchase more recently, something like that. If it's every promotion that we have, we give early access to our loyalty members. And so if it's their first ever early access, we really like to hype that up and celebrate that for those users. And so we'll split them out separately. We also don't like to hit our full list too often. We'll do that once, maybe twice a month. And that's really only if we have a really big sale or a really big launch. And then we also look at different metrics of engagement, like how often they're clicking with us and engaging from that perspective, or how often they're engaging in their site activity. We also kind of consider, what we're targeting. So when we have like a really niche collaboration that we have running, we like to kind of take the approach of almost like a lookalike audience on acquisition. So we kind of like to think, okay, what are actions they could have taken recently that would be similar and we think would then resonate with this new collection we're about to launch, as an example. So did they browse or add to cart or purchase a collection that's going to be similar to what we think this new collection would be? And we'll target something like that. We have like doormats launching soon. And so, doormats are not as big as our rugs business is. And so not everyone is always in the market for a doormat. So, let's create an interest group specifically for like that doormat audience. And another great example is Bridgerton. We have a Bridgerton collection. If anyone is a fan of that, like I am, they just launched their new
Counting
season.
down.
Yeah,
Counting down. Part
so
two.
good. I know, right? And so we created a special interest list for that send as well, and highlighting, the new season, and check out our collection. And that ended up doing really well and driving a really high click rate. So, yeah.
Danae, just to follow up on that, when you say interests,
yes,
what are those? Because I think that's a really interesting take on segments. So what would be a way you would create like a Bridgerton interest segment, for example?
Yeah, good question. So we use Klaviyo as our ESP. And so we use the integration between Klaviyo and PostScript constantly, probably weekly, honestly. And so we build out of Klaviyo and then we connect them into PostScript. And so when we're building in Klaviyo, we're using lots of or statements. Did they browse or add to cart or purchase, things like that? And then, those interest lists all get connected over into PostScript.
Awesome. That is a really great tip. Okay, TJ, same with kind of the idea of segmentation. You have a really unique approach to segmentation. And we had talked about how last year you were super laser focused on optimizing segments.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and where you're at now with your segmentation?
Absolutely. I mean, initially when I grow up, I want to be like Danae. Like, good God, it's insane. That segmentation is fantastic and something to be admired. We're about 20x less the size of Ruggable, so a lot different focus. But that being said, I'll burn time with a quick story. We were subscription forward last year, very similar to Amazon Subscribe and Save. You go and you want to buy Tide and it's 15% off, and then you have to downsell yourself. And our subscriptions were through the roof. We had a great time. We were running at a steady rate. And then June hit and we started to get a lot of churn. And we were considering segmentation early on as just buyers, non-buyers, subscribers, non-subscribers, very simple, active, non-active, that type of stuff. And after we started seeing the churn light up, it kind of got a fire under us to start looking at stuff a lot deeper. And what we found out, obviously, is that subscription forward probably isn't the best way to do it, but we use some gamification heuristics on the front end to kind of quell the churn and pull us back out into a peak again. All that happened through segments in Klaviyo, very similar to what Danae was doing, and through events. And what we were doing originally was a lot of pivot table type stuff. And then I ended up working with an individual that's running a stealth company right now that's AI based and doing a lot of RFM analysis and interest-based segmentation. Again, like, I think that interest-based nomenclature is going to play a lot going into the future as social graph starts moving out with Meta, and they start moving into interest based to kind of combat with what TikTok is doing. Everybody's starting to get targeted on interest rather than their friends and lookalikes. So pulling in all of the events we can and then segmenting out through Klaviyo and pushing those segments into PostScript is really where we're at now. So to succinctly answer it, again, early stuff was very rudimentary segmentation. Now we're looking at it as kind of customer journey buckets. Bucket 0, 0 purchasers. Bucket 1, 1 to 4 purchases. 5, 5 to 10 purchases. And graduating people through the buckets, through ancillary cross-sell, upsells, product education, things like that. And that's where we end up really leaning on PostScript. And internally, the team that you have there, we use a lot of the conversational SMS and lean on the conversational SMS with your professional services and weave a lot of that education into the SMS conversations as well. So that's where it's really lit up for us and been incredible.
That's great. That's great to hear. And I'm glad you're using our internal teams to help you do that. So when you're going to send a campaign for, let's say, a new product launch, for example, do you use that opportunity to test, or are you setting up tests prior to those, big dates and those big launches in order to make sure that those are optimized? So basically curious on at what point is testing the most important during your sales cycles throughout the year? Danae, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah, we actually use those big moments as the opportunity to test. I think really for us, the reason for that is we actually have a lot of big moments throughout the year. So we're able to do that. If we were only doing, like 2 big moments, we would shift that strategy, but we have enough where we can do that and get a really big learning in that one time instead of, over small, having to test a couple of times. And so that's sort of the approach that we take. I think when it comes to like launches that we typically have to test with an internal sort of launch versus like any of our licensor collabs that we do. And that's really just the nature of, licensor collaborations and approval processes and all of that. We were able to test one recently, though, with one of our partners. We just did an MMS versus SMS. We actually don't do MMS. We've tested it in the past. It doesn't ever drive higher traffic. And so considering it also costs more, it just hasn't been a strategy for us. But the concept here and the reason why we tested it was because a lot of our collabs are very niche. And so the concept was, if people haven't maybe heard of the person we're collabing with, for example, maybe they need that extra visual. And so even though it's driving a lot of traffic, no one was converting. So maybe we can get higher intent converting people by showing them an image of some sort. And then that way they have that higher intent coming through. And we were right. It won. So yeah, that was a huge unlock for us and a strategy that we'll be taking going forward.
And it couldn't have been Bridgerton because everyone knows Bridgerton. So
no, yes, not Bridgerton.
TJ, same question for you.
Yeah, we test throughout the year, and we'll test on full sends. We have a very different audience receptivity on MMS versus SMS. So for product launches for us, we'll actually test lifestyle versus use images and things like that and see which actually pulls in. MMS does work really well for us, and we've leaned on it quite a bit. Where we shy away from it is during high volume times that happen just with industry wide and seasonality, Black Friday, Cyber Monday type stuff. Like, obviously your team does a great job of highlighting way in advance when things should be scheduled in and what we should be leaning on and focusing. But we've kind of taken an internal role too, that when we get in the high volume send seasons, everything's just SMS because we want to get stuff to the inbox as timely as possible. And we seem to have better luck doing that during those peak seasons. Other than that, MMS is great for us and we lean on it quite a bit.
Yeah, the highway is way too cluttered during Black Friday, Cyber Monday to do
Wild.
big MMS sends. Don't do it. Just if that's a takeaway from today, SMS during Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Absolutely.
I'm really curious if there has been, I think a lot of us, when we run A/B tests as marketers, as seasoned marketers, we have an idea of how it's going to play out, but not always the case. So I'm actually curious if there's been a test you've run where you were certain you knew how it would turn out, and then the exact opposite has happened. I'd love to know if you have any instances of this. Danae, do you have one you can maybe share with us?
Yeah, to be completely honest, most often we kind of have a theory in mind. And so generally speaking, that actually doesn't happen. We usually end up kind of like thinking we know what's going to happen, and it sort of plays out that way, and just helps sort of solidify our theory. Yeah. But we did actually decide to test our win-back flow. And with that, we were initially set up using some internal data analytics analysis that we had done based on when people come back and purchase again, and sort of timing that flow, waiting X amount of days later to send that out after they purchase. What we ended up doing was testing that against Postscript's tool, their predictive purchase tool, and by like a long shot, Postscript's version 1. So that was a really huge unlock. Yes, thank you, Postscript. A little plug there. And so, yeah, that was like a really big win. So that's the new experience that's been rolled out, I think, for over a year now. And that's what's been running, and it's doing wonderful. It's actually even informed us for our email strategy too. Our email platform has a similar sort of setup we could be plugging into. So in the future, we will be testing that on email as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We won't get into testing horror stories, but that could be a whole other webinar. TJ, I know you have a couple, so I'd love to hear your examples.
Yeah, for SMS and in running stuff through Postscript, to be honest with you, is very similar to Danae. We have hypothesis on how things are going to turn out. And it's usually like, hey, let's use a product use shot versus a lifestyle shot. Or as we're getting through segment, maybe a lifestyle shot's going to be better here. And usually those predictions work out. Where it hasn't in the past, and this is the horror story, we got a call from Meta, and this is the non-SMS example, but where you think things are going to work and your segmentation, your targeting, and your mind is perfect, and then it completely falls apart. We launched Black Friday early on 10/25 because Meta called us and gave us a $150,000 coupon to do a 4-cell lift study, which sounded awesome. We were basically going to double our spend that month, go from 150K to 300K, half of it comp by Meta. We launched a little early, no big deal. Costco's launching in September. It's fine. Everybody's okay. Yeah. We end up running that out from 10/25 to 11/15 and got about $1,000 back per cell, not an additional $1,000. So not like a 1.1x ROAS, but like negative ROAS across the board. And that really actually turned over, hey, how are we tracking individuals? What events are we passing on to GTM, into Klaviyo, into Postscript? How are we actually pulling apart the usage of the site and understanding our users with the persona, so behaviors, and then with the persona, and then coming forward with marketing in that space. And it was about a 60 to 90 day undertaking. And we ended up getting out of the back end very stable and 4x ROAS on Meta. And I know that's not about this, but leaning into the segmentation and understanding where people are coming from and why is the most important, I think, in this. And the lesson is lean on that as much as possible. Always lean on your data and your targeting and make sure your connections are cleaned up, because if you don't have that downstream, it's worthless.
Yeah. That's a great example. And also I think like the meta example is probably also very topical for everyone that's watching this
I'm
right
sure
now.
it is right now.
No, it's a good one. I think, shifting gears just a little bit, we kind of ask a question like this on every webinar because I think it's really helpful as you two being very seasoned in what you do is for tests in general, are there any that you personally, your brands considered to be high value that maybe you don't think other operators are running enough, or that maybe would be ones that you think if you're not doing this, this should be something you prioritize, like coming out of this webinar? What might those tests be? Danae, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. Look, I mean, we run at, the whole theme of this is we run a lot of tests, right? We have a lot that we're doing. I think a lot of them are a little bit more predictable tests that everyone is probably running. Things like, our copy, and what the copy is saying. Is it mysterious? Is it not? Does it include emojis? Are we testing our send times and our sent days of week, things like that. I think what we do, and we've talked about already, is just like testing our segments. I think a lot of brands get really locked into the segments that they're going to use. We use 30-day engage, we use purchasers, and you just kind of like lean into that, just new leads, but I think that's like the biggest unlock that we've seen, where we've seen the highest value, is really testing out all of these different segments, sending them all similar content, and then seeing what they're engaging with, what they're clicking on. And if that audience is not clicking on that content, then they don't get that type of content anymore. And so we're really trying to lock into who are the people that want to learn about, a new product launch, about doormats, who is interested in, promotions, and who maybe doesn't care, all of these different types of content that we do. Q&A, we do sometimes do the keyword response a little less often on Ruggable, but, there are only certain people who are more interested in that. And so that's really, we try to like figure out what segments are going to want to hear what types of content.
Yeah, and that's so smart. I think engagement metrics in general can unlock so much when you're trying to do that. So that's a really great one. TJ, I know you've got some. I know you do.
The little hacky stuff that will go upstream a bit. So again, 20x less than Ruggable in terms of volume, I think maybe more. So our goal with Postscript has really been building the list and still growing. As we get into segmentation, it's still, we need, to cover what we have in email, call it 150,000, to SMS, call it roughly 20,000, and even those things out. So we look actually upstream at building a list quite a bit. And one of the hacky-ish things that I think is probably going to be some good value for the audience here, we do a lot of data enrichment upfront on anonymous users. And I'll just plug the solution. We're using retention. I think there's 5 or 6 solutions out there, but we use retention.com. And then through the API, actually send out a physical piece of mail to the anonymous user's house first, break down the subconscious barrier and the subconscious friction. We're through their front door, we're in their house. We then delay the email triggers and any SMS triggers if we have the ability to slot in and send an SMS 5 to 7 days after that piece of mail lands. That's done really well for building top of funnel and actually anonymous conversions for us. It's a longer drag. It's not an immediate, hey, we're setting stuff up today and we're seeing it. But 30 days in after that setup's there, it's pretty much evergreen. And it's been an absolute godsend for us in terms of just hands-off acquisition, having a flywheel going.
That's great. Matt Holmes just asked a hilarious question. Matt, that's so great. You're not a peasant, Matt Holmes, watching this right now. We will definitely get to your question though, because that's a really good one. Great. So let's talk about automations. So automations, this is another big one. In your automations, you both, I know, almost or very, very frequently run an A/B test. So just anecdotally based on what I've seen. And I'm curious on what are the most high value automations for Ruggable, let's start with. And what are you testing for in those automations? So like, what are you doing in those automations to like consistently try and optimize those?
Yeah, I think so. Highest value from a click rate perspective is our checkout and cart abandons. And then from an EPM perspective is checkout and then add to cart. we don't really have anything major running at the moment, but we've actually been working with our strategist for the last like month now on starting to figure out what are the new concepts and things we want to start to test. And so we're pretty close to fine tuning that and rolling some of those out. And so some of those things that we're looking at are more like product education type of content and identifying those people who do need that. When we do that in campaigns, that just doesn't seem to be the place for it. We don't get a lot of engagement or conversion there. And so maybe it's an automations thing that we need to tap into and test. I think, most brands are doing, discounts in their checkout and cart abandons. And so we're kind of interested in finding out, do we need a discount for everybody? Mm-hmm. Are there certain people who we don't have to give up the margin, which would be wonderful. And then are there people who maybe need a little bit steeper of a discount and can we kind of peel them off and target them separately and not have to give that larger discount to everybody? And so I think, once again, tapping into segmentation within these automations. And then sunset is another one. We're really interested in adding in some sort of like Q&A into our sunset. So we can kind of what TJ was talking about, like, let's learn more about why are these people not purchasing, not engaging with us? What can we be doing better? And hopefully a decent amount of them will be able to respond and help us out there. And maybe we can even get some conversions and customers out of it as well.
Great. TJ?
Yeah, it's again, similar answer. And I think this is probably just industry wide, like transactional conversation type stuff is always going to perform better, I think, than most general campaigns to a blanket list. Like there's intent downstream. So we see very similar with automations. If it's abandoned cart, abandoned checkout, add to cart, we see our highest CTRs and our highest earnings per message there. Other than that, to be honest with you, again, a good plug for the PostScript team. Some of our best automations are coming post-purchase and an abandoned cart, maybe not with a discount, but then starts into the conversational SMS. And we'll have a couple agents inside PostScript that are then pulling out that, why didn't you purchase information, categorizing it, feeding it back to us bi-weekly and giving us some insights on our customers. So again, our team's incredibly lean. So we lean on PostScript to actually clean up a lot of that stuff, but it is performing incredibly well. And we see a lot of transactions off the back end by just having that conversation with the customer. And, internally, we just want to make everybody feel seen, right, and heard. Like that's it. No transactions, just make every customer feel seen, right, and heard, whether or not they pull out a credit card. And usually you're getting that customer for life at that point. So make them feel valued before anything happens. The conversational is so good to just get across that value. How can I help you accomplish your goals? How can I educate you on this product? What more questions do you have? Do you need comparison info? And we do a lot with the automations, getting them there and then cleaning everything up from that spot.
Great. These are so great. And I want everyone to know too, that's watching, with the recap, we'll highlight a lot of these points that TJ and Danae have already kind of outlined so that you can kind of hopefully implement these, today. Let's start testing. I think the chat has been busy. So let's actually go right into Q&A now. Because I know we have some good questions hanging out there. Okay, we've got our first one. So, and this one was upvoted quite a bit. So what ratio of promotional offer SMS messages to non-promotional are you employing? What kind of non-promotional messages are subscribers engaging with the most? I love this question. Whoever wants to take this one first. This is a really great question, Brianna. Thank you for submitting this one.
I'll go. That's okay. Very different tactic on this one. There's a brand out there called We're Really Not Strangers. It's a relationship building card game for you and your significant other. Their SMS program, in terms of examples of non-promotional, is hands down my favorite thing in the world. And you can just Google image We Are Really Not Strangers SMS, and you'll start to see some of the messages they have. A lot of motivational stuff where it's, hey, you woke up this morning, have an awesome day. That's it. No, nothing else. Again, you got this, whatever it is, something hard is in your life, you got this. And they send out a lot of stuff like that. And we actually just completely jack that strategy. And so I would say probably 80% of our messages get into that spot of building the relationship, building the trust, building the internal esteem of the individual on the other side as much as we can. And then promotional falls, maybe 10 or 20% after that. But we lean really heavy on a lot of conversational, a lot of, call it community building messaging that works really well for us. And thanks for We're Really Not Strangers for setting that example. It's insane.
I also love getting their texts. Those are such good ones. And Bubs does this is a very similar thing, which is so great.
I totally, completely stole the example and got the team to do it. And I was like, we have to do this. This is just brilliant. So
your subscribers don't know that, TJ. You're the brilliant one, right?
All right.
It's all yours. Danae, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I can add to this too. I think on our end, like promotional, I'm taking this as like, like having a discount or something in it. And so from our perspective, we have like discount offer messaging, probably like 30% of our campaigns. And that's just the nature of like the sales that we have going on and supporting those. The rest of the time, we're always like promoting a product, a collection, a collab, something like that. So I think what we found is that when we try to do these more it's like, that's just so funny. It's the complete opposite of Bubs. When we try to be more conversational and do those kinds of things, we just don't see the engagement, the response. Our list doesn't seem to respond well to that. They just want to know. It may be a nature of Ruggable being, having so many products, so many designs. I mean, we have like thousands of rug designs. And all of these different products, collabs, collections. And so we take the opportunity throughout the month, each month, to highlight all of these different things that we have going on. We constantly have newness launching. And so we're highlighting all of these different things that are constantly being added to our site. And I think that that's just seems to be what resonates and people are really interested in that.
Yeah, it's a great one. And Brianna, I know there's like a lot of our Postscript Plus use a 5 pillars strategy. So they think about, I believe it's educational, like a mix of an educational, reviews, engagement, sales and offers, and like a product push, whether it's like new products or like a product assortment they want to push. So thinking about structuring, a variety of different sends, and then from there, seeing which of those, your audience engages with the best. So thank you for that question. We have another one. Great. This one from Lindsay. What are some of your most valuable segments that have worked for you? Okay, so your most high value segments. Curious about this one too.
I can answer this first. We recently found a really good one. I can't remember. I'll probably have to follow up on like exactly what is in that segment, but it is layering in, recently added to the list, has engaged within a certain time frame, and has not purchased yet, which was really interesting to us. We've been able to dive into like some really valuable segments of people that like haven't purchased. And so as long as we're layering in like their sign up and like their engagement levels, we're able to get like some really valuable segments there. So that was one that's like coming to mind right off the bat. But yeah, and a lot of people who are just like new subscribers in general seem to be really like valuable and high converting. Yeah.
For us, it's actually non-active buyers. So people 180 days past that haven't purchased before, reactivating them, that's just been gold for us, and always has been. Strangely enough, we have like a 40 to 50% repeat purchase rate on any given month. It's just after that 6-month clip, we start to see a lot of fall off. So just bringing them back in the fold and helping everybody accomplish their goals, whatever those may be, is kind of where we see the most re-engagement, and I would say the highest ROAS on re-engagement. It's a lot easier to convert, a past customer than it is to get a new one. So it works really well for us.
Is there anything you're specifically what's the content that's re-engaging that group?
Yeah, so it depends on the products they purchase and kind of what buckets they're in. If they're a one-time purchaser, we're usually just serving them same products, potentially a discount if they've used a discount originally, and we'll kind of get granular that way. Other than that, it'll be cross-sell, upsell type stuff of like, hey, you've tried this in the past. Let's get you back into the fold with maybe a less expensive product, or let's get you back on your way to accomplishing goals.
Gotcha. That's great.
Yeah.
I would also say looking at AOV is a really interesting play. So we've seen if we focus on some AOV type of segments, that helps find like more valuable people to target.
Great. All right, Matt. Yes, here we go, Matt. I loved this. Made me laugh out loud. All right. Where do you start? So you're not as big as Bubs. You're not as big as Ruggable. So much to do, especially some of these brands that are maybe their marketing team is like a party of one doing all this. They want to optimize at somewhere. Is there a place? Yeah. How would you advise Matt?
I'll unmute. This has been my bread and butter because I've consulted for years. So anything from two guys in a garage to enterprise, I can give you some direction. Realistically, if you're small, and I'll just say call it sub 10 million run rate, is probably a very, very safe space to say you're small. And I don't say that's small to be challenging, but you're small compared to Ruggable, and we're in that same camp. I usually try to pick apart one or two things and optimize for those things macro on the business. So are we getting PII? Do I need to build my email list or my SMS list? And I think for 2024, I would heavily lean on that and build PII for your company as deep as you can, either grabbing email or SMS or a combination of both. The reason being, we're in an election year and the DNC and RNC are going to suck up all the available inventory on every digital platform possible. And we saw that happen in 2016 and we saw it happen in 2020, and history is going to repeat itself. We do know that. CPMs are going to go through the roof. You are in a area of the year where you can preemptively start building and not have to rely on paid media or rely heavy on expensive CPMs to get top of funnel traffic in Q4 where most people do their numbers. So I would consider flattening out the year and start concentrating on building one or two things and get as much PII as possible, whether that's lead gen or whether that's just adding people through purchases, but do that as much as you can. And I think that's the best area to start scaling.
Oh, great tip, TJ.
I would say from an SMS perspective, like if you're trying to just like set up, like where do you start your SMS program? I would start with like the basics, like a cart abandon, work with your strategist on, what is the right cadence for you to get going too. I would say like somewhere between, I think 1 to 2 times a week is kind of like the sweet spot, but it also depends on your list size and all of that. And then once you get the list big enough, then that's when you can start to dive into things we've been mentioning on the Ruggable side in terms of like segmentation and all of that.
Okay, let's do these. These are so good. Let's do one more question if we have one. And this will be our last question before we wrap things, but this is from Carly. Okay, how do you identify your personas across PostScript, Klaviyo, Meta, all of the things? Really good question, Carly.
Maybe. Do I need to go? From a ground level, for us specifically, and I'm sure Danae's got a way better answer with data on this, but from a ground level, it was truly just look at from a customer export where people are at and as much data as enrichment as we can on that. And there's plenty of third parties out there. We used one called Good Segments, and it was, I would say, 80% accurate. And start building the personas off that, understand demographic, understanding psychographic information, interests, that type of stuff. We also paired that with GA and kind of got GA demographic, psychographic information. What we do with that is then have everything live and breathe inside of Klaviyo as our CDP, and then pipe everything back out into Meta or PostScript or any of our other platforms that we're using.
I'm sad to say I don't, TJ really set me up. I don't have a better answer. I mean, we don't really use personas too much at the moment. That's actually something that's kind of like the future of Ruggable. We're working on getting, right now we kind of use Klaviyo as our like pseudo CDP, but we're working on getting set up in a legitimate CDP and being able to plug into that. We have a team internally that like fully focuses on all of this kind of analysis and surveying and all of that. And so we have personas kind of identified internally, but it's not something we really use on the CRM retention side in terms of targeting yet. So more to come in the future.
Great. We'll save that for our next webinar. All right. So we're about to wrap. Before we wrap up, everyone on this webinar is the first to hear about this. AI has entered the chat. This is very exciting. So, if you know Postscript, then you already know to expect some big innovations from us. Did I lose you guys? Oh no, you're there. Okay. We will be dropping some AI features for e-commerce marketers that have not been seen before. I can't say more yet, but we will be able to share all of this in the coming weeks. We're unveiling everything live on our next webinar, which is going to be on July 24th. We've got a little ticker below that you can click on, but you can also go over to postscript.io AI.launch, AI-launch to sign up. And also these links will be in your recap email. So please keep an eye out for that. We are really excited about this. And if you're using Postscript, you should be really excited about this too. Lots of exciting things to come. Thank you again, TJ and Janae. This has been so wonderful. So thrilled that you guys are a part of the Postscript community. And thank you everyone for joining us. And we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all.